All right, we're back. More live flight sim streaming on the PilotEdge network. We're flying X-Plane 11 in a Mooney M20J201. Tonight we're flying from Yuma International, KNYL, to Ontario International, KONT. We're pretty early on in the process here. Just getting in the simulator and starting to get things set up. So I guess we'll just walk through kind of a normal process. Let's go ahead and fuel pump on. Fuel just enough to have fuel pressure. And we'll crack the throttle. Gauge the starter, bring the mixture up. Then we'll lean. Prop should have been full forward. Appears a starter switch isn't working. Currently. Okay. Weird. All right, prop is full forward. We've leaned. Go ahead and turn on the beacon.
4263 Southwest 865.
Kill that so we don't have to listen to that for a while. All right, let's go ahead and set up some radios here first. So the first frequency we're going to need to call is going to be Yuma clearance delivery, and that is 118.0. Put that down here in our COM 2 radio. ATIS here is 118.8. Go ahead and get the weather.
Approaches in these read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact that you have information Mike. Yuma International Airport, ATIS information Mike. 0057 Zulu. Wind 190 at 4. Visibility 10. Sky condition, clear. Temperature 28. Dew point -11. Altimeter 29087. Arriving and departing runways 21 left, 21 right, 2635. Visual approaches in these read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact that you have information Mike.
All right, we have information Mike. That is current. So now we'll come back in our radio stack here and put the ground frequency, clearance delivery frequency, and then also ground will be in our standby of our second radio. Trying to get into the habit of using COM 2 for all ground-based and then COM 1 for all air-based frequencies. First one we'll need on COM 1 is going to be 119.3, and that is power. We'll put that in standby, or in our active of our COM 1, so we're ready for that. And let's think about what we want to ask clearance delivery for before we call up. Going to Ontario, 8500, and we have information Mike. Go ahead and dial them up on COM 2 here. And we'll make our call to clearance delivery. Yuma clearance delivery, Mooney 3852 Lima is a Mooney M20 slant golf on the ramp with Mike, looking for flight following to Ontario International 8500.
3852 Lima, Yuma clearance departure frequency 125.55, squawk 5724.
125.55 on departure, 5724 for 3852 Lima.
52 Lima, read back.
All right, so we'll set up our
Bullhead ground, Skyhawk
5724 in the transponder.
172 slant golf. Would like to pick up flight following.
And we can put
down to Jacqueline and Cochrane.
25.55 in our standby of our COM 1.
SoCal approach, the Avalon altimeter 3001.
Make sure our transponder is on. This aircraft
with flight following rating requests. I'm unable to accommodate either or at this time. If you haven't already received a departure frequency and a squawk code, don't call me for flight following or a rating. United 990 connect Las Vegas.
They must be really busy.
19.9.
Altitude is going to be 8,500. Vertical speed will set to 1,000 on our autopilot, so we'll have that ready. And let's take a quick look at our
San Bernardino Towers,
altimeter.
522 is parked at the ramp.
The altimeter setting was...
Who else is calling there? For 25 Juliet, turn right heading 210.
2987.
Vegas Tower, United 990 is on the
So
visual.
let's set that up here.
United 990, Las Vegas Tower, runway 26 left, clear to land. 24014,
All right, 2987. And
United 90, 26 left.
before we here, let me kill them again so we don't have to listen to this. So we don't have to listen to this for... Okay. So what I need to do real quick here, I don't know if you can see... Yeah, you can see this. In the Garmin 430, I'm going to go ahead and put my flight plan in. And I'm basically picking that up here from... I've got it here in ForeFlight on my iPad. I've pre-planned this route. And our first waypoint is indeed the Imperial VOR. What you can see, what you can see here is the number 1. Then we're going to the Kumba intersection, K-U-M-B-A. I'll show you all this on the map as we get going here. K-U-M... Kumba intersection or waypoints. I keep saying intersections. They're not. They're not intersections. These are just GPS navigational waypoints. Then we have the JLI VOR, and we'll back all these up. We're going to fly by GPS. But we're going to back all these up with our VOR waypoints. PDZ, the Paradise VOR. Flight should be about an hour and 15 minutes, give or take. And we are just about set to get out of here. Paradise VOR. And then our final destination, KONT, Ontario International Airport, not Canada. KONT. Accept. And then let's just double check our work. Whoops. Double check our work. Yep. Direct to Imperial will be our first leg. They want us to fly a heading of roughly 265. So I'm going to put that in the heading selector. Always a good idea. Have that lined up there. And then let's take a look here in ForeFlight while we're here real quick. I'll show you. I love this. We'll go right to the first point, the IPL VOR. We can see that it's 115.9. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my... I'm going to use nav 2. So I'll show you. Let me show you what I mean. So when we're going to fly this route via GPS. So that my top OBS, my nav1 instrument here is going to be slave to the GPS. So I'm going to use nav2, which is this bottom VOR needle, to track the VORs so that we have kind of a cross-reference of our cross-reference of our navigational waypoints. It's great. It's good to have two. It's good to have two sources for that. So we know that our initial heading that we have we've pre-selected here is 265. That should be what this bearing shows us as well on the VOR. So we're going to go ahead and set that to 265 so we can keep an eye on that. And we'll go ahead also. Actually, we could do it with the OBS just as easily. 265. All right, so those are all set now. Let's go ahead and turn on our taxi light. We'll flip back over here to COM 2.
26 right, taxi via Charlie.
Give Yuma Ground a call.
Charlie 835.
They are on 121.9er.
Tower 737 X-ray Alpha, SoCal approach, runway altimeter 299.5. You can expect vectors final RNAV Yankee 20 right approach. And John, we clearance Archer 52326, that should be good now. Archer 52326, affirmative, I just have it printing up now. IFR 2 Palomar is on request, am I?
Here we go, we got our call in now. Yuma Ground, Mooney 3852 Lima is at the north ramp. We're ready to taxi VFR.
Mooney 3852 Lima, Yuma Ground. Runway 26, taxi via Alpha 2, Alpha 1, cross runway 21 left.
All right, runway 26 via Alpha 2, Alpha 1, cross runway 21 left for Mooney 3852 Lima. So that's going to be this route, Alpha 2, Alpha 1.
Mooney 25 Juliet, Avibo, contact tower 118.3, good day.
All right, so let's, taxi light is on, cow flaps are open. All right. Let's go ahead and find our way to Alpha 2. Don't worry, Steve. I'll do my very best to follow my taxi instructions this time. I won't be back taxiing randomly on the runway anymore.
Clear tower request, bye.
All right, we've set our altimeter. Flight instruments look good. Flight controls feel free and correct. So we'll get up here. I don't want to waste a bunch of time. We'll get up here and do a real quick run up. As you guys can see, I'll show you this on my big iPad. I was able to, I like in this feature in Floor Flight where I can highlight the route that he gives me on the chart. It can be really helpful. This was a pretty simple taxi clearance, but it can be really helpful on crazy, complicated airports.
Clear Palomar via radio vectors heading 175. Victor 23.
He gave us clearance to cross 21 left. So
squawk code 5035, and I missed the frequency. 326, you're back right.
I can't tell. Steve, Kevin, if you guys are watching, Alex, is the frame rate bad again? Or is it pretty smooth? Does it feel like pretty smooth video, or is it like glitchy frame rate?
Looks like a tower south of 65, 26 right.
All right, here's two on left, coming up here on our right. Not here. This is taxiway Kilo.
Southwest 865, Las Vegas Tower, runway 26 right, clear for takeoff. 26 right, clear for takeoff, Southwest 865.
Approaching runway 21 left. Entered runway 21 left. 9,100 feet remaining.
We have permission to cross. Do I get a good idea to check and make sure?
Localizer 27.
Not gonna get crushed. Then we'll switch over to tower.
6325, Juliet, Almere Tower, 27, clear to land.
Frequency.
6325 Juliet.
So it is choppy. That's a bummer. I'm gonna see if I can do anything about that.
John Wayne Tower, Archer 52326 at the West T hangars with Romeo, ready to taxi. Number 52326, John Wayne, ground array 20 right, taxi, Bravo Kilo. 20 right, Bravo Kilo, Archer 52326.
It's so weird. I don't know why it would be. I'm going to kill this stream for 1 second. You may have to reconnect, or it may restart playing again for you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to kill this.
Departure 865, yeah.
All right, we should be back. I don't know if this is going to make any difference, but let me take a quick look here at the chart, make sure I'm all set on everything. We're going to take off here and fly heading of 265. Switch over to tower frequency.
Santa Monica ground runway 21 taxi via Bravo.
All right, fuel pumps coming on, landing lights on. Fuel pumps on, cow flaps open. Yuma Tower, Mooney 3852 Lima, holding short runway 26, ready to go VFR westbound.
Number 3852 Lima, Lima ground runway, correction, Yuma Tower, runway 26, clear for takeoff, proceed on course.
26 clear for takeoff and on course for Mooney 3852 Lima. All right.
Number 52 Lima, you getting 5 following?
A-Farm, we're going to get in the air unless you want to set it up for us.
I just got a squawk for you, so I don't know if you've been given that already.
I had 5724 for 3852 Lima.
52 Lima, right, I'll hand you over.
1,000 feet remaining.
St. Bernardino Tower, Cessna 75222
All right.
is at the east ramp. Request VFR
Runway
flight
26.
following to El Monte.
Middle of the windshield. That is a magnetic compass. All right, I see 26 on the runway. I see 26 on my DG. I see 26 on my compass. So we are going to go full power. Engine instruments in the green.
And we'll be doing the CAT 7 grade. 222 or 75222, roger.
Airspeed's alive. There is 50.
Like into the dirt by the looks of it on my scope. I'm not sure.
Here's 62. Here's rotate. Tap the brakes. Positive rate, gear up.
Bixfield Tower, November 582 Victor Bravo is about 11 miles due northeast. Request full stop landing with Zulu, and if able, 1 to right or 1 to left.
And we're basically a straight out departure on course.
Number 915 Tango Bravo, was that number 1 out? No, it's number 582 Victor Bravo, correct? 582 Victor Bravo, correct. Yeah, unless you can state the need for runway 12
We'll go ahead and accelerate to 95.
Okay, right downwind for 30 right for 2 Victor Bravo. Thank you.
95 knots.
And we'll report midfield. 2 Victor Bravo. 2 Victor Bravo.
Alright, let's go ahead and set up our climb power here. We're crossing almost 1,000 feet AGL.
Runway 21, make left close traffic runway 21 clear for takeoff.
So we pull the RPMs back to 26 and our manifold pressure to 26 as well. 26, 26.
Whiskey Kilo, left close traffic is approved. Roger. 16 Whiskey Kilo. Channel Tower, Roger 52,
all right.
326, holding short at 20.
So let's go ahead. Altitude hold, and we'll put it in nav here for the GPS. We'll see if this autopilot can do a nicer job for us tonight than it did last night. Landing lights off. And as we get here into some cleaner air, we will open the ram air inlet, which will give us some better manifold pressure performance for the engine. Engine instruments are in the green.
Bernardino Tower, Cessna 7522. Request taxi to be active, VFR flight following. 385 to Lima, contact, give it departure, good flight.
Climbing to 8,500.
Number 385 to Lima, contact, give it departure, good flight.
Yuma departure, 385 to Lima, good day.
Good day, and who was the
We'll give them a second, make sure the radio is quiet. Yuma departure, good evening, Mooney 3852 Lima, just off of Yuma, climbing 2,300.
0678, climbing 900,000. Climb and maintain 900,678. Mooney 385 to Lima, Los Angeles Center, Christian, Yuma departure, radar contact. Check this 180% of positive discretion, maintain Falcon 240.
All right, so our instruments are working. I'll give you a quick tour of the instruments. We didn't get a whole lot of time for this. And my mouse is inverted in the stream for some reason, so it's going to be hard for me to point these out to you. But I'll just try to give you an idea what's going on here. So if you start right in the, right kind of in the middle of your screen, right in front of me, there's the standard, what we call a standard 6-pack of analog instruments. Okay, it's basically. Actually, hang on. Let me go ahead and pull this ram air on. And you'll see the manifold pressure increases. So I have to continue to bring the throttle back as I bring that in to try to keep that close to 26. Okay, sorry. Back with you on the instruments. So what we have here is the standard 6-pack. Across the left to right, there's 3 in a row. There's the airspeed indicator.
11 o'clock, 2 miles south to eastbound. Altitude indicates 1,500 type unknown. Additional VFR traffic 10 to 11 o'clock, 3 miles.
Sorry, artificial horizon, miniature airplane, we call it, kind of gives us our pitch and bank information. To the right of that is our altimeter, altitude, and that is adjusted using the Colesman window here to put the appropriate barometric pressure in for where we're located. It's a pressure altimeter. Then left to right below that is our turn coordinator. It shows us, it keeps our turns coordinated. It shows us a slip or skid with the ball across the bottom, and also the wing bank, the marks show us when we can make a what they call a standard rate turn, 2-minute turn. Below that is an HSI, horizontal situational indicator. This is not in all airplanes. In a lot of cases, it's just what they call a DG. It's the same principle, except it doesn't have this cool little yellow line in the middle. This, in a lot of airplanes, is a vacuum-controlled instrument. This one is electric, I believe. And then to the right of it is our vertical speed indicator. It shows us in feet per minute our climb and descent. To the right of the 6-pack, on top and bottom, there are 2 kind of OBS slave to our nav1 and nav2 radios for tracking VOR radials. In this case, because we flipped the switch to GPS mode, this top window is tracking with the Garmin 430 GPS, which I'll show you here in a second. The bottom one is tracking what we have in our nav2 radio. We have a VOR dialed in there. The what's our first waypoint? Is it the Imperial VOR? Yeah, the Imperial VOR 115.9 is its frequency. We can use basically the way this works is if we were navigating by this and we have the frequency tuned to the 115.9, and we can also listen for its Morse code, which is printed on the charts to know that we're listening to the right VOR. If we were tuned into that correctly, and we could spin this wheel around until the needle centers, and whatever heading the needle is centered on, with the arrow atop meaning this is to the VOR, it's roughly a 260 heading. If we flew a 260 heading, we would be flying towards that VOR, and that is one of the many ways we can navigate while flying. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm going to increase, got to keep increasing the throttle as we climb. As performance decreases, it takes more to maintain the 26. Okay.
69, contact Oakland Center 127.
In the center section here where the radio stack is, kind of just below the giant compass, the very top rack space, as you would consider it, is the annunciator panel. This is where all the warnings and things would show up if there were things that I needed to be aware of. Below that is COM1 and NAV1 radios, although in this airplane, those are kind of just for display. Those are actually controlled by the Garmin 430 GPS unit, which I'll show you in a minute. As you can see, I don't know if you can tell, the frequencies are the same in both of those. And below these are these old school COM2 and NAV2 radios. So we have 2 communication radios, 2 navigation radios in this plane. Below that is a transponder. This is an altitude encoding transponder. As you heard him give me a code before takeoff that I put in here, what is happening is this is replying to, it's broadcasting effectively back to them our pressure altitude, and that's how they're tracking us in the air traffic control facility. Below the transponder, the device I'm clicking the switch on now is a piece of equipment called a DME, distance measuring equipment. And it has a switch here that I'm flipping between NAV1 and NAV2. So I've got it on NAV2 right now, the Imperial VOR. And this piece of equipment will track for you your distance to the VOR and your speed, effectively. So we have 119 knot speed, 32.2 nautical miles from the VOR. And the very bottom of this rack is our autopilot control. And finally, on the right-hand side, there's some various engine instruments over here. The top gauge is an engine gas temperature gauge. We'll use that in a minute when we lean the fuel-to-air mixture of the airplane when we get to cruising altitude. Below that is the manifold pressure gauge. And airplanes that have a fixed speed propeller, like this aircraft, instead of just having a tachometer for RPM like is what in the Cessna 172 that I fly, this Mooney has what they call a fixed speed propeller. And so with the blue propeller control, we effectively are able to change the pitch of the propeller. It actually, with oil pressure, changes the pitch of the propeller, and we'll get back to that in a second. I have selected a cruise setting for this flight of 2400 RPM and 21.3 inches of manifold pressure. So once we build up a little airspeed here, we'll start dialing this back and get set up for cruise. Let's go ahead, we'll go ahead now and start bringing back the propeller. This is beneficial because it allows you to fly much more efficiently when you can control the bite, how much air the propeller is biting. You want a lot of that torque on climb, but then at cruise, you don't need as much, and it really enables you to run a lot more efficiently, get a lot more bang for your buck. All right, so there's roughly 21.3 inches. Nope. There's roughly 21.3 inches, 2,400 RPM. And then what we'll do is we'll start leaning the mixture. As we're at altitude, we need less fuel because the air is less dense. So we don't need as much fuel.
495 Charlie X-ray.
So we'll just real slowly pull back on the mixture control while we watch the EGT gauge climb. We're looking for peak temperature, and then we're going to go slightly rich of that. So slightly more fuel than peak temperature. And that would be what our cruise setting will be. This part of the process, this leaning of the mixture, is not only for these high performance or engines with a fixed speed propeller.
Contact LA Center 128.6.
128.6 for 3852 Lima. Good day. LA Center, good evening. Mooney 3852 Lima with you, 8,500.
Mooney 3852 Lima, Los Angeles Center, good afternoon. The Yuma altimeter 2987.
2987, 52 Lima. All right, so we'll check our altimeter setting. That's close enough for government work. No offense, Alex and Steve. All right, the other thing that's interesting, depends on what type of aircraft you fly. A lot of Pipers, these Moonies have 2 fuel tanks that are not mixed. In other words, down here on the floor, there's a fuel selector valve that requires the pilot to switch between the left and right tank in flight. And unlike my Cessna 172 that I fly, where the left and right wing tanks, there's a both setting where both fuel lines feed collectively. This one you have to manually change fuel tanks. So I'm looking at the 2 fuel gauges here in front of me. And I've been on the left tank this whole time, so you can see that it's less than a quarter tank, and the right tank is more than a quarter tank. So at this point, I'm just going to switch over to the right. And when we make that switch, we also want to watch the fuel pressure gauge right in the middle there to make sure that the fuel pressure doesn't drop off, indicating we have some problem with fuel feed from one tank or the other. So you want to be ready to switch back quickly if that fuel pressure drops. So I'm going to make my window where I can see both of them, and I'm going to flip this to right while watching the fuel pressure, and it stayed in the green. So we're still good. We're good on the right tank, and now fuel is being delivered to the engine from the right tank.
Southwest 865, Roger, report back, please. Roll that 210, pop back, go, SoCal.
Also, in the real world, I would be using a checklist for every stage of flight, like before taxi, before start, before taxi, before takeoff, climb checklist, cruise checklist, descent, landing checklist, and all that. I'm not doing that. I'm just not, because I don't have good checklists for this airplane, this model of airplane. I'm also eating Lay's potato chips. What else? Who else here? Kevin, Steve, Alex, Alan. Hi, Alan.
Cessna 75232, squawk 1374, I-10, say destination. Cessna 75232, squawk 1374, and I-10, say altitude.
I guess I could show you here on ForeFlight.
Cessna 75232, Roger, Ontario, altimeter 2994. Cessna 232, radar contact 2 miles.
But we
west of San
we
Bernardino
flew
Airport.
from Yuma. We're flying westbound now, and then we're going to turn north. You can see we're fairly close to the California coast. We're going to fly just to the northeast of San Diego's Bravo airspace. That's all the blue. That's all the blue shapes down here. There are various layers of Bravo airspace around San Francisco, or San Diego, excuse me. We'll go further north, slightly inbound, as we're nearing Santa Ana. And then Ontario, you can see the Ontario airport is east of LAX, Los Angeles. The flight planning was interesting for this one because of this terrain. There's one mountain range that I had to think about, and it was this one right here.
Archer 75232.
And that's how we ended up at 8,500 feet.
Roger, the Ontario altimeter 2994.
Well, I should turn traffic on. I don't know if we're seeing other airplanes on my ForeFlight or not, are we? Yeah, we are. There's just none down here where we are currently. Actually, here's a couple.
Cessna 0 Papa Echo, advise any altitude changes.
These are drones. These aren't real people flying these. Those two little turquoise airplanes you see in front of my airplane. For class Echo airports, in non-towered airports throughout the ForeFlight or the PilotEdge coverage area, they have fake airplanes that they put in the patterns just to make it a little bit more realistic with other traffic in those kind of airport areas. All right, so you can see on the map here, we're approaching our VOR here in 5 miles. It's the little pink dot in front of us, and that position checks. You look at it with the GPS, but also you can look at it on the DME equipment. It's showing 4.8, 4.7, which is perfectly in line with ForeFlight and with our GPS. And as soon as we hit that waypoint, because we've got the airplane in GPS autopilot mode, it's going to turn itself on course to the next point, which is just a GPS only waypoint. So I won't be able to program anything into our VOR radios, our navigation radios, for the next waypoint. But I will go ahead and set up our nav2 for the Julian VOR, which will be the next stop on our flight plan. That's frequencies 114.0. It's a long way away, so we won't be able to tune it in yet. You can just think of VORs like, I mean, they're just basically radio stations, so you would treat it just like you would a radio station, and that the further away you are, it's
Cactus 180.
actually
approach, descend via the Lucky 1 arrival, expect localizer 27 or RNAV.
we are actually seeing the.
2998.
We'll listen to it in a minute and see if that's really it. But I think we are for the
Cactus 180, Roger, descend via the Lucky 1 arrival. And report the
there comes our automatic turn. I always watch the autopilot during changes like this, and I'm ready to disengage it at every point along the route, just in case it does something unexpected. If you look at the iPad again, this is what a VOR looks like on a sectional chart. It's got a compass rose around it, and then there's a little blue box in the middle that gives its frequency, and also to the right of it is a Morse code indicator. So what you can do when you've got a VOR tuned into your navigation radio, when you want to make sure that what you're navigating to is actually the correct VOR,
3 o'clock and 9 miles.
you can listen to your Nav2 radio. And sometimes you have to fiddle with the squelch.
Correction, TBM 5 Tango Bravo, contact SoCal Pressure 128.1.
I'm not sure I can do it in this. I'm not sure I can do it in this airplane model.
TBM 915 Tango Bravo, SoCal Pressure, proceed direct to the numbers, runway 208.
Yeah.
Expect runway 20, right? The John Wayne altimeter 29er.
This one isn't letting me bypass the squelch to listen to it, but in like 52 Lima, the airplane I fly, the 172, we would listen to it to assure that it is the correct VOR. Now here's with ForeFlight, here's how we can tell. If I dial up the this OBS indicator, whoops, let's come back inside the plane. If I dial up this OBS indicator to a heading, it's pointing at 280 right now, and it's saying we are 53.3 miles, 53 miles heading 280. So in ForeFlight, I'll come down here and find our little airplane. I'll use 2 fingers and I'll draw a map. And it says 52.2 miles, roughly 287 heading. So yeah, that is the VOR that we're tuned to. So in an emergency, if we lost our GPS, let's say right now, we could still continue on course by navigating to that VOR using our VOR radios. It's all about situational awareness of flying.
Lucky 1 arrival, clear, visual approach range 27.
That's a good question. Alan wants to know if we're too far away. It all depends on the VOR, the terrain of the area that you're in. And it looks like at 8,500 feet we are, and 50 miles you're well within range of a VOR. It looked further to me. That's why I was surprised that we picked it up. I thought we were further away than that, but we're only 50 miles. And that's plenty of range at altitude. Now, if I was at like 2,000 feet, probably wouldn't see it because of the terrain. I see the terrain, in front of me, and then slightly to the 280 to the north, there's mountainous terrain ahead, so we'd probably be below the terrain and it'd be blocked. But because of our altitude, we're able to pick it up from here. And this makes sense. You see how the needle is deflecting because I haven't changed this rose, and we're still flying pretty much due west. So our course is changing. The further west we get, the more north of a track it is, because we're going to make a right-hand turn to that thing. So the further west we fly, you'd keep dialing that around just to track it. But it's always a good idea to have multiple ways to navigate, and that's one of the reasons I think it's so great. The electronic flight book apps like ForeFlight that are available for iPads and iPhones and stuff these days, along with a little GPS receiver. Even in old school airplanes, like the little Cessna I fly that doesn't even have a GPS unit in it, we navigate with VORs and with PilotEdge, and looking out the window. But to add another level like that with just an iPad app and a little $300 device is amazing. It just adds so much situational awareness to any cockpit of any airplane.
Archer 326, contact Power March 118.6, good day.
All right, 13 miles to our next waypoint, and then we're going to have a northbound turn. We are approximately 41 minutes away from our destination airport. I'm also very curious to see what YouTube will do with this video, because I originally was encoding at 1080 and then stopped it and changed it to 720 in a different bit rate real quick and started it again. I'm curious to see what YouTube does with its recording of this flight. I'm not recording this locally. It's only on YouTube. I hope it'll stay good. Well, we'll see how the landing goes. If it's bad, then I won't put it online anyway, but
Skog 4 Golf Sierra Daggett altimeter 2990. 90.
I picked the Mooney M20 for a lot of these longer haul flights in this Alphabet Challenge because of its speed. But in the real world, it's a strong contender. If I ever get to the point where I can look at getting an airplane, it's a strong contender for me because of its fuel efficiency and its performance. Like the little Cessna 172 that I fly that will do about 105 or 110 knots at cruise, burns about 8 gallons an hour of fuel. This Mooney will do 170, 180 knots on 8 to 9 gallons of an hour. It's hard to argue with that. We're making 209 miles per hour above the ground right now, across the ground. Actually not. We're still pretty long haul from Ontario, but after we make this turn here with the autopilot and we get reestablished towards this VOR, it would be a good time in cruise flight with an autopilot to start kind of prepping arrivals in Ontario, looking at the airport diagram, just kind of figuring out how things are going to go there. Try not to spend too much time not doing anything in a flight because things will start happening real fast. The other interesting thing about desert flying, like out here in the Southwest, where PilotEdge's area is that there's a lot of open land, not a lot of airports, but also there's about a bazillion places to put the airplane down if you had to. There's a lot of open, flat spaces here, as opposed to flying where I fly. Well, I'm here in West Virginia. And we look at the airport that I fly in and out of, and I'm telling you, there is not a lot of good options if you had to land off airport somewhere around here. It's not easy. It's not all smooth terrain. I mean, there's a lot of terrain like this out here too. A lot of this kind of mountainous terrain. But there's also a lot of desert floor. Alright, looks like we're getting established on course here. My DME says we are
536, contact Los Angeles Center
33.3 miles. So I'm going to take this opportunity, I'll show you guys this as well, to bring up ForeFlight. So the magenta rings around Ontario shows that it's a Class Charlie airport, but we're on flight following. We'll be talking to approach well before we get there. If we didn't have flight following, which is completely a voluntary service, but it's free and you should always get it when you're flying. Alex says you pray for a golf course in West Virginia. It's absolutely true. Or an interstate. if we weren't on talking to air traffic control right now in flight following, we were just out flying VFR, we would have to have two-way radio communication with the approach controllers and any of these magenta rings before we could fly into this airspace. But we will already be talking to them well in advance. They'll know where we are. So we'll have two-way radio communication, which will allow us to fly in here. There is no Bravo airspace to worry about in this area. Looks like Ontario has a handful of runways. Let's go ahead and look at their airport diagram and get an idea of what our all right, so we've got 26 left and right and 8 left and 8 right. So 2 parallel runways here at Ontario. Let's see what the 2 NOTAMs are it's telling us. Okay, northwest. Okay, taxiway November, construction adjacent to the northwest edge. It's barricaded. And taxiway November between taxiway Delta and approach end of runway. Okay, taxiway November between Delta and the approach end of 8 left is closed. So I would take this opportunity to mark that off as closed so that we don't end up there inadvertently. And the other one's not really relevant. Let's see where we think excuse me, let's see where we think we want to go once we get here. I'm just looking for the FBO, I guess Guardian Jet Center. Yeah, GA parking. So
75232. Roger, you're looking for a frequency change, confirm?
that's where we'd like to go. So hopefully we'll get 26 left or 8 right.
75232. Roger, radar service terminated. Squawk
Get there
maintained.
earlier.
Frequency change approved today.
And since we can't hear the weather there yet, let's go ahead and cheat and look at it on the iPad. Winds are 230 at 12 to 18. Oh, good. Good. So definitely going to be the 26s. Hopefully we can get 26 left. It probably will be that because of our entry here. It's a left traffic pattern. So we'll probably enter a left base. They'll probably just bring us, if I had to guess.
Arch 52326, approach request.
I had to guess they'll bring us in for a left base right here for 26 left.
Archer 326, roger. You can expect, correction, these will be vectors for the ILS-24 bridge.
All right. Let's go ahead and get back to flying here. Check everything again. 21.3 inches of manifold pressure, 2,400 RPM. Engine instruments all in the green.
Cessna 65710, SoCal
We're tracking.
radar contact.
Tracking this VOR, JLI VOR. We're 19 miles from JLI, and then our next will be the Paradise VOR, PDZ.
Archer 326, turn right, heading 040.
On 112.12. So I'll go ahead and get that ready in the standby of our NAV2.
Chicago 710, climb maintain 3000.
So that we're ready.
Chicago 65710, turn right, heading 340, safe bridge request.
I wouldn't want to have to put down out here. Here's another cool feature of ForeFlight. I don't know if you guys have seen this.
If you
notice,
right, heading 270, And
around my airplane, there is this squiggly, weird-looking turquoise border. That is a glide ring. It takes into account terrain, altitude around you, current winds aloft where you are, and basically shows you for your specific airplane and its glide ratio the glidable distance if we were to lose an engine right now and the areas that we could go to. So you can see how tremendously helpful that would be in situational awareness if you suddenly lost your engine and had to decide what airport or where, trying to find a location to glide to, when you could look at a ring and help you make a decision if you can make it to a field or not, an airport or not, with current conditions being factored in. So that's what we're looking at with that crazy ring there is a glide distance ring. Now, disclaimer, as per anything else, you know, when you're ultimately responsible for the safety of the airplane, so there's other factors that go into it than just looking at this ring and looking at an airport in it and saying, my ring advisor says I can get there, I'm going there, you know. But it is a great tool at a glance to be able to look down and tell you potential landing sites in your glide distance if you were to lose an engine.
20 left, correction, back course 2 left approach.
All right, 12 miles, this VOR. We are less than 30 minutes from our destination. These guys are giving me grief after last night I landed at Yuma in the dark after having some craziness. My attitude indicator failed somehow, and then the autopilot, we had runaway trim, greased the landing, rolled all the way out, missed the last taxiway, asked for permission to back taxi, and then just said I'm doing it anyway, and then got yelled at by the controller for back taxiing without permission, like 100 feet. So I'm going to try not to get yelled at tonight. 119.6, 3852 Lima. SoCal approach on 119.6. SoCal approach, good evening, Mooney 3852 Lima, 8,500.
Mooney 3852 Lima, SoCal approach, Lima ground altimeter 297.
907. 907. Wow, that's dramatically different. So let's go ahead. You'll see the autopilot will adjust our altitude here. As we change this altimeter setting, our indicated altitude is going to change, and the autopilot is going to correct for that to keep us out of the assigned altitude that I programmed of 8,500 feet.
9 disregard. United 990, contact Los Angeles Center 134.65, good day.
134.65, United 990.
Skyhawk 6570, 4 miles from Nupo, turn left, heading 050, maintain 2000 to steps on the local.
All right, there's basically no turn, very slight turn to the right. I'm going to go ahead and switch over our nav 2 radio to the next PDZ VOR, Paradise VOR.
Approach DBM 555, Hotel Papa 11000.
We'll have basically a
Star Trek 81, Los Angeles.
turn to 300.
Hello, car clock, say again.
Here in just a second, we'll have a slight right-hand turn.
1000 to 16.5.
We are 67.7 miles from Paradise VOR. I can tell from my DME equipment.
Ontario approach, altimeter 2999. 5 Hotel Papa. TBM 5 Hotel Papa, Ontario, altimeter 2994. 2994, yeah, sorry, I thought I heard that wrong. 2994, 5 Hotel Papa.
Yeah, I mean, very slight turn. And we're on course. One thing we haven't talked about here is our vertical planning, our descent planning. Let's take a look at this on the iPad again. So we're at 8,500. Field elevation for Ontario.
Cessna 710, how will the approach terminate?
Say again for 710.
Cessna 710, how will the approach terminate?
Oh, full stop landing, 710.
Is 944 feet, as you can see there.
Cessna 65010, contact
I'm going to assume that the pattern altitude is 1,944 feet or 1,900 feet, unless we read other in the notes here on ForeFlight, or we could look at the airport facilities directory, which ForeFlight also gives us, although here they also list pattern altitudes for us here. For light aircraft, like us, 1,944 feet, or 1,900 feet. It's generally rounded to the 100 feet. So I'm going to have to get from 8,500 to, let's just call it 2,000 feet. So I've got 6,600 feet to lose. We'll give a couple miles per 1,000 feet, maybe because of our speed here of over 200 miles an hour. Let's say, just to be safe, we'll say 3 miles per 1,000 feet. So I need to start descending about 18 miles, about 18 miles from Ontario. So I'd say when we're over the sensitive nesting area, we'll begin our descent. To get down to pattern altitude in time to enter what we assume is going to be a left.
Archer 326, flight heading 10.
What we assume to be a left downwind or left base entry for 26 left. 23 minutes. We've turned into an 8-knot headwind. That'll slow us down a little bit. Go ahead and look up the weather frequency at Ontario. 12425. I'll put that down here in COM 2. Any chance we can hear it yet, you think?
Runway 26 left. Runway 26 right approach and use simultaneous approaches to parallel runways in use. VFR departures, contact, clearance, delivery, advise on course heading, altitude, and if flight following is requested. Read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact, you have information, Romeo. Ontario International Airport. ATIS information, Romeo. 0153 Zulu. Wind 250 at 11. Visibility 10. Sky condition, clear. Temperature 23. Dew point 2. Altimeter 29 or 9 or 4. Arriving and departing runways 26 left, 26 right. Visual approaches in use. ILS runway 26 left. Runway 26 right approach.
Okay, cool.
Simultaneous approaches to parallel runways in use.
So they are landing 26 left and right, so we will most likely get 26 left, and if we don't, we'll ask for it for convenience sake. But did you hear he also said ILS runway 26 left in use? This is cool. I've been wanting to do this on one of these alphabet flights. I haven't had a chance to do it yet. One of the things I like to do, and I even do this in the little Cessna in the real world when I'm flying, anytime I'm landing at a place with a runway that has an ILS approach, I like to program it in to my nav 1, because I can then use, I'll show you what it looks like for those of you who haven't seen it. This top VOR that's currently being used by our GPS, the vertical line will show you your alignment to the runway. The horizontal line will show you the glide slope, whether you're high or low on your approach. It's just one more, again, I keep talking about situational awareness. It's just one more tool to keep you aware of your location and space in an approach. So they're landing 26 left and right. We are absolutely going to ask for 26 left if they don't give it to us. And then what's cool here in ForeFlight, I'll show you. In ForeFlight,
Star check 81, descend upon discretion, maintain flight level 240.
I'll come down here to 26 left, and there'll be some information. Here's the ILS or localizer runway 26 left. We can take a look at this chart right now, and 111.35 is the frequency. So I'm going to put that in my standby of nav 1, 111.35.
Sorry, could you repeat the rest of that?
And the approach course is 258. So I'm going to go ahead and program that. I'll show you this. I'm going to go ahead and program that into this top OBS indicator.
3600 until established on ILS 24.
258.
Check 81, roger.
And that's all for now, because I'm going to use my heading indicator for something else later. And I'll show you how convenient this can be for, I mean, technically, we could attempt to arm the autopilot and have it fly the instrument approach. I'm unfamiliar with that procedure in this airplane, and for that reason I'm going to hand fly it, but just use the ILS as a tool for me. So we'll keep this chart handy here on the plates tab in case we need that again later as we get closer. For now, we are 46 miles from PDZ, the Paradise VOR. $18 minutes to our destination.
Number 3852 Lima, contact SoCal approach 135.4, good day.
35-4-52 Lima, good day.
Squawk 184, Golf Sierra, contact SoCal approach 126.7, good day.
Who was I calling? That's SoCal approach. You say 135.4?
SoCal approach, good evening.
Yep.
Hawk 184 Golf Sierra is passing through to 7,000 descending. 4 Golf Sierra SoCal approach, Rider Palm Springs, altimeter 285. 85.
SoCal, Mooney 8385 to Lima, 8,500.
Mooney 385 Lima SoCal approach, Ontario altimeter 2994.
904. So I'm liking the pilots on here tonight. The last few,
SoCal approach.
we've heard some real doozies. causing some serious grief for these controllers. One thing that I really admire these PilotEdge controllers. They're working a ton of frequencies and positions. And with this quarantine and all these pilots at home unable to fly, they have been slammed. Their traffic has just grown immensely, and they've just done a fantastic job keeping up with the demand and managing a lot of people. This is a great platform for learning. I don't think anybody is complaining about folks using this PilotEdge platform to learn. It's a great tool for learning how to interact with air traffic control, how to fly approaches, how to fly in airspace. But I do think there's a responsible minimum knowledge that you should have coming in. You shouldn't be playing Flight Simulator for the first time, trying to figure out how to fly an airplane, or there should be some fundamental level for the courtesy to everyone else on the network who's trying to do things. Just having a general knowledge. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to ask questions if you don't understand something. But to just come in here and treating this like a game, I think is kind of disrespectful to not just the controllers, but the other pilots who are on the network trying to use this as a continuing training aid. I just think there's a little bit of a little disrespectful.
SoCal approach 135.4. 35.5. SoCal departure, Bonanza 6233 Golf, 3,400, climbing 5,000. Bonanza 6233 Golf, Santa Barbara departure item. 6233 Golf.
So my plan on fuel management here is I'm going to run this right tank until we get to the sensitive nesting area that we saw earlier on the chart, where we're going to start our descent. Then I'm going to switch to the left fuel tank, and I'm going to use the left fuel tank the remainder of the way. And on approach to landing, we'll turn on the electric fuel boost pump. That's a precautionary measure in case the mechanical fuel pump fails at a critical stage of flight. And we'll just land on left tank. 14 minutes to our destination. It'll be a little longer than that.
Papa Roger, descend VFR at your discretion. November 56 Tango, take show departure at that. 56 Tango, ident. 56 Tango, radar contact. 4 miles east of Bakersfield Airport. Maintain VFR. We'll maintain VFR for 56 Tango. November 5 Hotel Pop, contact SoCal approach 127 before. SoCal approach, DBM 555 Hotel Papa, descending from 15,000 down to 6,000. Number 555 Hotel Papa, SoCal approach, Roger, Los Angeles, altimeter through correction 29904. Los Angeles, altimeter 29904, 5 Hotel Papa.
About 20 miles or so, 15 miles to our descent.
Direct San Marcos. Direct San Marcos, 6233 Golf. SoCal approach 184 Golf Sierra, field in sight. Number 184 Golf Sierra, radar service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Have a good one, Foster.
And Mooney 3852 Lima has information Mike in Ontario.
25-2 Lima, roger. Information Romeo is actually current. Altimeter is 29904. Probably expect runway 26 left and advise when you have the airport in sight. You can send VFR at your discretion whenever you're ready.
Okay, 9 and 4 will descend at our discretion, and I misspoke. We do have Romeo. Picked it up 10 minutes ago. 5 Lima, thanks.
Roger. Start check 81.
Mike
Los Angeles
was the
Center,
Romeo, was the
124.85.
ATIS information at Yuma, where we departed. But I didn't get yelled at. Start about a 700 foot per minute descent when we get up to
Start
our
check 81 Los Angeles
point.
Center, roger. SoCal approach, Demon 55 Hotel Papa, airport in sight. November 5 Hotel Papa, roger. Radar service terminated, squawk VFR frequency change approved. There's no traffic observed between you and the Catalina airport. Roger, we'll look up the traffic. Frequency change approved. 5 Hotel Papa, good night. See you. Start check 81, descend and maintain 12,000 Las Vegas altimeter 2985.
All right. The Railroad Canyon Reservoir. To our left. Hey JKL, good question. How do you get ForeFlight to work with your sim? Super easy. It is, I'll show you actually, in the settings tab. If you click settings on, now this is with X-Plane 11, and there's a setting in X-Plane where you have to tell it, I can't show you right now obviously, but there's a setting where you tell it to export AHARS and GPS data to all devices on a network. And once that is selected, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the settings window, there's a, I'll show you this on a big iPad screen. There's a devices tab, and you click on it, and this is something you have to do one time, which is click enabled on X-Plane. And it will spit out data to ForeFlight. ForeFlight will read it and treat it just like, and take it a level further. Here, where I'm using this with ForeFlight, I mean with PilotEdge on their network, you can see their other traffic, the blue magenta traffic targets from the PilotEdge network, also being displayed in ForeFlight. Super cool. X-Plane 11. All right. We're about at our descent point, so here's what I'd like to set up for. We're going to go ahead and switch fuel tanks. If you remember from earlier, we're watching our fuel pressure gauge while we switch to the left fuel tank. Fuel pressure is still good. And we're going to go ahead and set up about a 700 foot per minute descent. And we will throttle back for this descent.
5 Tango Delta is at 5,000. Request ILS runway 24 with a full approach through Oceanside with November.
United 990, roger, contact SoCal approach on 134.32 and advise them. Roger,
And we'll go ahead and turn our I mean, this is early, but we'll turn our landing light on now. There's just a lot of traffic. It is nighttime.
November 5, Tango Delta, SoCal approach.
It's dusk, I guess, in California. I have it set for daytime just for the sake of this video, so there are other airplanes who could potentially be seeing us in the dark, so I'll turn the landing light on. And as we descend, we also want to slowly adjust our mixture, enriching our mixture. About every 1,000 feet or so, I'll weaken the mixture slightly.
990, sorry, you're partially blocked there, but the frequency is 132.37.
And we're going down to 1,900 feet.
November 9015, Tango Bravo, contact Joshua approach 126.1.
Which is going to be our pattern altitude at Ontario.
Approach Skyhawk 5456 Tango is with you 8,000 feet inbound from Mojave. Would like info on entering the MOAs, please.
November 5456 Tango, stand by.
JKLS, have you finished your PPL yet? Really enjoy your training videos. I appreciate that very much, and I really appreciate you taking time to watch. They've been fun to make. I haven't flown an airplane in real life since September, mainly because of life, just in general, and then I was ready to go again this spring, and then the pandemic. But I've been talking with Tyler. I'm good to go. I should have soloed last summer. I mean, I should have taken my check ride last summer, truthfully. So we're going to get back up there, do a couple of prep flights, and then I'm going to schedule my check ride and get it going. It's silly that I haven't finished yet. So I've been listening to some audiobooks. Jason Shepard's Passion Private Pilot check ride book over and over, trying to stay current. I've been flying a lot of simulator, just trying to stay up to speed, and then I'm ready to go. I got to get it this spring. I've got to get it before October because my written, I passed my written. It'll be 2 years in October, and it'll expire. So I'm not taking the written again. So I've got to get it done before then. So my hope is this is early summer. All right, so we are descending to 1,900 feet. Landing light is on. We're on the fullest tank. I'm going to put my headphones on so I can, both ears, so I can hear.
Maintain 6,000 and a half the airport and say Star Check 81. Star Check 81, clear visual approach runway 26 left. Clear for the visual 26 left, Star Check 81. November 53440, SoCal approach. Cleared.
I'm going to go ahead and set this heading bug. I'm going to fly heading mode currently, so that we can be ready to set up for what I think will be a left base for 27.
November 53440, you need to refile your flight
26
plan with
left.
the correct routing. You can't follow a tech route and then have an amended portion of the route after it, if you understand what I'm saying.
I will resubmit for the...
Roger. Roger, well, I mean, as long as you understand what I'm saying, I'm not going to make you refile the flight plan. You know what I mean? It's just got to be the tech route only. You can't put windy after that.
Gotcha. 440.
November 53440, Roger. Clear to the San Diego Lindbergh Airport as filed. Maintain 5,000. Departure frequency is 127.4. Squawk 3454.
Clear for San Diego via coastal right, Papa 56 as filed. Altitude 5,000, frequency 127.4 and squawk 3454.
Cessna 440, read that correct, hold for release, advisory number 1 for departure. And if you're not quickly, there's going to be some delay.
Let's go,
Deployment 5 minutes.
let's go 347. Let's go with the heading now.
Roger. Time now 0229 and 1/2. Clearance void if matter of 1 by 0235. Release for departure.
By 0235, 440.
We need to be looking for the airfield as well. It's going to be off our nose here on this turn.
Over tower, start check 81.
Circuit approach 53440, just checking for I-8 to 18.
November 440, roger, understand.
All right, so now that we're in that mode, I can go ahead and set up nav on my top switch here so I can see the ILS.
Ontario Tower 120.6.
20.6, 52 Lima.
So check 81, roger. Thank you.
Bakersfield ground, November 8056 Bravo on at the FBO. Would like a VFR departure to the southeast with advisors to Mojave at 7,500. I have information, Mike.
I'm sorry, I missed the aircraft type for November 56 Bravo.
Aircraft type is a Piper Arrow, Frank Golf 8056 Bravo, and this is the Cat 6.
Okie doke. I'll have your request on that.
Ontario Tower, Mooney 3852 Lima, 7 miles to the southeast inbound, full stop.
Rate 056 Bravo, departure frequency 118.8, squawk 4003.
Departure frequency 118.8 and squawk 4003 80656 Bravo.
056 Bravo, read back correct. Break November 661, radar contact, altitude leaping.
John Wayne, clearance, Skyhawk 3 Mike Zulu, would like clearance to San Diego International.
Okay, you just stepped all over somebody. Number 54661, I apologize. Say altitude leaving.
7,500, 54661.
Number 54661, roger, contact SoCal departure.
Contact SoCal departure, 54661.
All right, we're going to see if we can get slowed down here enough.
Alpha, forward clearance advisory, ready to copy. Ready to copy, 7 extra Alpha. Number 737 X-ray Alpha, clear to the San Diego Lindbergh Airport on departure, flying 175. Radar vectors to join Victor 25 to Passive. Victor 208 to intercept the Los Angeles 118 radio.
All right,
to
we're on the
Cardi.
fullest tank.
And then the Mission Bay 320 radial inbounds to Mission Bay. Direct, maintain 5,000, expect 9,000, 5 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 128.1 and squawk 5207.
Clear to San Diego, on departure flight heading 175 to radar vectors to join,
I'm not going to get the call tower, and we are like on top of the
I
field.
didn't get what that was, but then radar Victor 208 to the
So we're going to have to
Los
circle.
Angeles
I don't know what else to do here.
Then Cardi, Mission Bay, and then I believe it's filed 5,000, strict 9,000, 5 minutes, 1281, squawk 5207, 7 extra Alpha.
Number 7 Extra Alpha, Victor 25 directs to the Passive intersection. That's Papa Alpha Charlie India Foxtrot.
All right, Victor 125 to the Passive for 7 extra Alpha.
That's 7 Extra Alpha, so Victor 25, not 125.
Victor 25.
7 Extra Alpha, back is correct. I believe there was somebody else waiting. Who was that?
Warning, terrain ahead.
3 Mike Zulu.
Number 3 Mike Zulu, okay, what's your request?
I'm requesting VFR to San Diego International.
Okay, what's your aircraft type?
System 172, and I'm on the west.
And you're looking for flight following, or are you going to go on your own after you leave the Charlie?
Let's do flight following, please.
What's your Michael? What's your planned cruising altitude?
$6,500.
Number 3 Mike Zulu, Roger, on departure. Flighting 080, maintain VFR at or below 3000. Departure frequency 128.1 and squawk 5420.
On departure, flight heading 080, at or below 3000. Departure 128.1, squawking 5420, 3 Mike Zulu.
What's your Mike Zulu, you're back right?
All the tower, Skyline 125 Delta is on the ILS localizer for runway 24.
So this is the problem.
Altitude 6,500 and aircraft type Cessna Skyhawk. And 135 Tango Delta Palomar Tower, runway 24 clear line.
Runway 24 clear line, runway 35 Tango Delta.
And who wants to go VFR to Santa Barbara? Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara wants to go VFR to Santa Barbara. Affirmative, FAR to Santa Barbara, Cessna 222. Ah, Cessna 222, that's who I'm talking to, okay.
Ontario Tower, Mooney 3852 Lima is 4 miles southeast, inbound, full stop.
Number 3852 Lima, Ontario Tower. You landing Ontario?
Landing Ontario, 5 Lima.
5 Lima, Roger, enter left base, runway 26 left, or 26 right off, also available. Which do you prefer?
26 left, 5 Lima.
5 Lima, Roger, enter left base, runway 26 left, clear land.
Cleared land, 26 left, 5 Lima, left base. Okay, Lord.
Downwind ground. Skyhawk 3 Mike Zulu, is ready to taxi with Tango, west ramp.
Number 232, I'm sorry, did you want 5 following? Affirmative. Like flight following to Santa Barbara.
Alright, so we need to roll out here on like a
Planned cruising altitude. 6,500.
340 heading. We'll start flying this by hand the rest of the way in. Lord have mercy. That was painful.
Departure 135.4, and what is the block code again? 6221 for number 232. 6211, so it's not 222. Number 232, 6221.
Alright, let's... Oh my god. Killing me. Right. Autopilot's off. Gear is down. Gas on the richest, the fullest tank. Mixture's full rich. Propellers forward. Seatbelts. Lights are on. We're gonna left base here.
20 right, taxi via Alpha 8056 Bravo.
John Wayne ground, Skyhawk 3 Mike Zulu is ready to taxi with Tango on the west ramp.
3 Mike Zulu, John Wayne ground, 20 right, taxi via Bravo Kilo.
20 right, Bravo Kilo, 3 Mike Zulu.
First notch of flaps.
Sky high 750.
So if you watch the top,
for me, put your regular call sign in the Sky High. Call signs are going to be used for the Sky 2 and beyond.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Sky 756, just your regular call sign for the Sky 1 rating, is that what you're doing?
That's affirmative. I think it's the SKY 756 for what I needed.
So I overflew the 26 left.
Use your regular call sign, not a Sky High call sign until Sky 2 and beyond.
Alright.
Charlie, I for Burbank. Number 757 Papa Charlie. You know,
These guys got me all screwed up on all that crazy holding and crap. Alright, so we're high and fast. I know you're all shocked by that.
Greg, take your ground.
Anybody who's watched my videos for any period of time knows that that is par for the course.
We're 137 Canyon ground.
All right, fuel pump's on.
Runway 21 taxi via Papa.
Gear 3 green.
Via Papa 1237.
Fuel's on the fullest tank. Mixture's rich. Propellers forward.
5 departure Las Vegas transition. Then as
70 knots.
Climb via the City accept maintain 5000. Departure frequency 135.1. Squawk 3250.
We're cleared to Burbank via the Northbound 5 Las Vegas. Then as filed. Climb via the City accept maintain 5000 135.1 of departure.
So that's what we're looking for right there in that top OBS indicator. A perfect cross with both lines centered. That means we're horizontally and vertically. So we're on glide slope. And we're also appropriately lined up with the correct runway.
Parking V Alpha, 135 Tango Delta. Have a good day.
And I think there were 2 others. Try it again, guys.
Oh, they're both going to talk. Here we go.
Cherokee 87902 November would like to complete perform the Cat 5 test.
All right, 26 left on the runway.
November, we can do that.
Little left rudder. Powers out.
Is at the terminal, ready to taxi for departure.
Number 8792 November, Santa Maria ground, runway 30, taxi Alpha.
Runway 30, taxi via Alpha, 8792 November.
I mean, that's like a pro pilot landing there. Right?
I
mean, is anybody really complaining with that?
8056 and Bravo, base field tower 830, right clear for takeoff.
30 right clear for takeoff, 8056 Bravo.
And who else was calling?
We'll go ahead and slide off right here.
Our Cessna 75232. Request taxi to the active for VFR flight following.
Get past the hold short line. Fuel pumps off.
Number 75232, I'm on the ground, runway 19er, taxi via Alpha.
Taxi to runway 9er, V taxiway Alpha, Cessna 232.
Los Angeles Tower, Unit 990 is on the ILS 25 left.
Unit 990, Los Angeles Tower 25 left. The wind 23011, clear line.
Clear the line 25 left.
Accelerate strobes off. Ontario Tower, Mooney 3852 Lima, clear 26 left at Tango.
Number 3852 Lima, taxi to parking via Sierra, this frequency, good day.
Parking via Sierra with you, 52 Lima, good day. All right, let's taxi over here to the parking and shut her down.
Mojave Tower, this is 545, Skyhawk 5456 Tango.
That, friends, is how
with the weather.
You do that. So because I took the time to mark something, here I'll show you guys. Those of you who were here at the beginning saw me mark my little green dot using 4 flights.
Flight following. Apologize.
On 4 flights annotation of the map. I'm going to taxi all the way to my little green dot. You can see it there on the
5456 Tango. Thank you.
Did he have to give you a frequency change approved, or did he have to give you the frequency to contact? Just give you my frequency to contact.
No, sir. He made,
Kevin is going to knock me for being left of center line.
So that's probably what the delay was, my inability to find the airport.
Okay, but did he say frequency change approved or contact Mojave Tower?
No, you said frequency change approved, sir.
Okay, in that case, he has not coordinated with me. Just as for future reference, he has not coordinated with me, and so I don't know that you're coming, in which case you need to reestablish two-way communications.
So sometimes, somebody mentioned something in the chat earlier that they sound grumpy tonight. Sometimes, two things. Some of it is
And I understand it's super busy, it's hard, but, and
So he's acknowledging it right now.
Fine sometimes, but, yeah, that's what we're here for.
It's busy.
Okay, I understand, I appreciate it.
And it's also a training environment. So, like what he just did with that guy there was a correction for future
John Wayne Tower, Skyhawk 3
flights. I mean, part of the point of this whole thing is this is a great learning environment because there's no danger to anybody.
Or holding short 20, right at Kilo, is that you?
Roger that.
Yeah, so a lot of people, there are a lot of corrections that happen. Like, I deserved to get yelled at last night when I back taxied for 100 feet without permission. I mean, I knew what I was doing was not correct, but it was super busy. Like, say, nobody was getting a word in. I just did it, so I deserved what I got last night.
Ready for departure to the northeast.
Number 56 Bravo, connect Big Show departure.
So I got to go all the way up here to Foxtrot.
Departure 56 Bravo.
Number 8792, November
Speedy taxi. It's 20. I was going 24 miles per hour, Scott. It is a little speedy, but did you see how far I had to go? Plus, it's a rental plane, so who cares? Oh, nope, I can go right here. I'm going to go right to my green dot.
Left ground 756 Charlie Mike.
Which I decided was my parking spot. So, in fact, I'm going to make my own parking spot. Ready? I'm going to come right over here. I'm going to make somebody really mad. I'm going to block their hangar. I'm going to park right in front of their hangar.
AM Flex, Quebec, IFR system, Van Nuys.
I'm going to park right here. All right, shutdown procedure would simply be throttle roughly 1,000 RPM. Lights are off. Avionics master is off. Mixture goes full lean. Kill the master. Mags are off. And then, if you guys want to get really fancy with me, look over here, and we will open the door. Might as well open the baggage door while we're at it so we can get our stuff out. And that's it. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight, flying along. That was a good one. That was a fun flight. We'll keep doing these as long as you guys are enjoying them and watching. Looking forward to the next one. We'll post it ahead of time. We're getting ready to fly again. Have a good night, everybody.
Disconnected.